All right. So, Max, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Brandon, nice to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So, listen, we're gonna cover the whole gamut today. We're gonna talk about how you started, what you're doing now, the results you're getting, the mistakes you. We're gonna do all of that. Before we dive into that, though, just give the audience, if you could, Max, a little context. Where do you sell real estate, and how long have you been licensed?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I got licensed about 4 years ago, in Palm Beach, in Florida. I'm originally from Germany, so I came over like in 2018, for a corporate job, and so didn't really have any background or any, not a big sphere or whatever over here. So, yeah, when I did my license, I kind of started out, as a part-timer in the beginning. And was more heavy really on the buyer side. Yes, I was one of the guys that bought leads, so that wasn't too great. Yeah, and then I saw you on YouTube at some point. I the more I got into real estate, when I was on the buyer side, the more I figured, okay, this is really what I want to do. But I didn't want to be on the buyer side, so I was trying to figure out, how can I be better on the listing side. Came across, like, I don't know, millions before me, your YouTube channel, and that's what that's kind of where I really set in. I was like, okay, this could actually work. This is the way forward.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, let's talk about that. What if you look back and said to yourself, was there a moment in time where you said, okay, I have to figure out how to become a listing agent that's working with buyers. This is just not going to get to uh it's not going to get you where you want to go. What was it that made that shift in your mind to say, I've got to focus on building a listing based business?
Yeah, great question. So my background on corporate side is I was running businesses, mining businesses,
Okay.
primarily. And I liked the operations part and being able to control some sort of business, right, that you're generating. And I always felt like, at least from the experience that I had, on the buyer side, it's super hard to control it. I'm not saying that people can't do it, but I was just not able to figure that out. And I felt like if I'm on the listing side, I'll be able to control an actual pipeline. And so for me to have that sanity, that I'm able to control, 5, 6, 7, maybe even 12 months out, what's my business flow going to be? That's really what I needed to say. You know what? This is doable for me. I want to do this.
Yeah, and when you say, and that makes a lot of sense. I just want to make sure that I don't miss it. When you say control, you're talking about control over building a pipeline, control over your schedule. I would imagine control over managing clients. Is that what you mean by control?
100%. Yeah. So from being able to know, how many listings am I going to bring online in the next couple of months, even to, like, if we get really tactical, when I do prospecting, I pretty much open the faucet or I don't, right? So depending on how much time I put in, that's how much business I'm getting. And that's what I loved about it. I'm in control of getting those leads. I'm in control of qualifying them. I don't rely on any of these other platforms to, just they send me whatever, whoever clicks at midnight,
Yeah,
on a listing. So that's what I love about it.
yeah. Let me. That's a great point. Let me ask you about that. A lot of agents give me a lot of pushback. They say, you're going to ask me to prospect, you're going to ask me to cold call, you're going to ask me to knock on doors. Brandon, there just has to be an easier way to go out there and build business. How did you come to the conclusion that, listen, if you're going to build a scalable business, if you're going to be in control and to do all those things that you said, how did you make peace with it in your mind that you are going to have to be the one to go out there, prospect, and generate conversations versus chasing maybe some of these other shiny objects?
Honestly, Brandon, so before getting to you, I've tried so many different things, and I feel like most of it was just BS. People were promising you can do this, you can do that, and hey, they're going to call you even though they don't even know you, and they're going to list with you the property. And you know, I gave it a shot. I saw it wasn't, at least for me, it was not working, and I just got to the point where I figured, like, I don't want to rely on anybody else to feed me. I got to go out there and hunt by myself. And I trust myself enough to do that. And then when I saw your approach, it really jived with, who I wanted to be in the real estate business. Like, I didn't want to be like a sleazy salesman or whatever like that. So I loved your approach. And that's why I figured, you know what? I'm a huge fan of cold calling. No, I mean, I still, the
Right.
rejection is hard sometimes, but I see it's making money, it's working, and so I'm just leaning in.
Yeah, well, and I think to your point earlier, it's working because you're in control of the input. You're in control of how many people you call, how long you do it. You're having conversations. This is the thing, Max. I have for years, I've challenged any and all marketers to this challenge. I've said, listen, why don't we do a little experiment? We'll have somebody pick up the phone in whatever market you want, and we'll have them do some direct outbound prospecting for, call it 4 hours. And then you could do whatever marketing thing you want. And here's what I know, that in those 4 hours, that someone that's picking up the phone and proactively calling homeowners, number one, they're going to have way more voice-to-voice conversations in those 4 hours than they would doing any marketing activity. I don't care what it is. There has not been a marketing thing out there that said in 4 hours you could talk to 30 or 40 homeowners in the next 4 hours. And no marketer's ever been able to pick, they've never taken me up on that challenge. That's number one. Number two, when you talk about it working, not only will you have 30 to 40 conversations, but when you learn how to master the conversation of actual selling, when you don't come off like an absolute creep, you can generate probably 3, 4 really good leads within that same time period. There just isn't another marketing thing out there that can produce those types of results, where in the next 4 hours from now, you can have 30 to 40 conversations with homeowners that own homes that you want to sell and generate 3 or 4 leads in the next 4 hours. I don't know of anything. Do you?
Nah, not at all. I mean, to me, the most powerful thing of everything is, inside the cold calling aspect of it is not only that you're getting these conversations, but you're able to essentially disqualify the people that you're talking to. And to me, that's just so powerful. Like even today, when I was prospecting this morning before getting on this phone call, there was a guy I was talking to. He said, "Yeah, I'm getting ready to sell my house. It's a $3 million property." It's like, wow, like,
Sure.
obviously I was thinking I want that listing, and then I started disqualifying over the phone, and I realized, what, this is nothing that I'm chasing here. So like flip this around, and I get like a whatever Zillow lead or something like that, and it's just like a random text message, "Hey, so and so wants to sell their property." You don't know what you're getting into, and so I love that with this approach, I feel like you're just always one step ahead of the game when you're doing it this way, and that's why I enjoy it.
Yeah. All right. So let's break this down a little bit. If you could, can you share with us maybe some of the results you've gotten this year, or where your business stands right now? Listings taken, listings sold, things of that nature?
Yeah, 100%. So I joined the program last year in March. I mean, the first couple of months were brutal. I was making
It's
my
not
calls.
easy. It's not
No,
easy.
it's not easy. It's very, like the rejection in the beginning is just, oh my God, it was so rough. But I don't know, like I got to the point where it's like, whatever, like they don't know me, and even, I mean, I had people yelling at me like crazy in the beginning. And I remember you said on one of the coaching calls, what, they don't know you. It's not personal. So just shake it off, and I kind of, that resonated with me, So what I do is I track my numbers like a maniac. So what I'm doing then is, every pretty much I go like in 2 week, 1 week stints, and I see, where am I at in regards to the goals that I have for the month. So I know if I need to lean in more, or if I, whatever, where I allocate my resources. So in the beginning, obviously you're drinking from a fire hose, so it was more overwhelmed than anything. And then like I think it was 2.5 months into the program, I suddenly had 6 listings, and I got completely overwhelmed. Like I didn't know what to do left and right, and then boop, my prospecting time went down. And then, you kind of pay the price 6, 8 weeks down the road. And I
That's right.
realized that it's just like, okay, I gotta figure out a better way how to do this here. So I was way more religious about my time in the morning, that I would allocate or dedicate towards prospecting. And then I kind of, got the hang of it. I got more and more contacts per month, and finally got like a business flow. So in terms of selling last year, it was really, really rough here in Palm Beach County. I had a lot of condos, and the condo market's just been, I mean, it's been tanking, man.
Yeah.
So like a skill that I really had to develop is to have pricing conversations with sellers. Once you're in the market, hey, it's your call, right? I mean, you cannot sell or take advantage of this before this really goes downhill, and like
That's
getting
right.
more versed and skilled at that, that took me some time. So last year, until really the end of December, I only sold 6. 6 units. I had about, I think it was 19 listings taken, and a lot of stuff just was not selling.
Yep.
And then I carried a few over into this year, but so 2024 has been a blessing for me so far, man. Like in the first 6 months, I've sold it was 12 units. I took 15 listings. I have two more pending right now, so that's been really, like, this year has been a whole lot different for me. I kind of felt like I had to get to the breaking point, until it just popped, and then just being consistent worked out in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said all the time in our coaching calls, right? I mean, the learning is in the doing. You have to fail your way forward. There is no way around it. And so many agents want to skip the hard part and get right to the point where you're at right now because you in your market, I mean, you sell 12 houses, so you're on pace to do 25 units or whatever the case may be. What type of income would that represent in your market?
It's about 250, 300K.
Yeah. I mean, so you're going to be in one of the top income producers in your market, just doing this for the last 15 months. Is that right?
Yeah, it's going to work out well. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's break down what it is that you are doing to get these types of results. So first, let's talk about what lead sources are you going after right now? When you pick up the phone in the morning and you start prospecting, you make your calls, who are you actually calling?
Yeah, so in the very beginning, I called a lot of FISBOs because I wanted that immediate cash flow. But I realized over time that I really don't enjoy FISBOs as much, so I switched it up. After I had some cash flow going, I had a couple of listings that actually sold that leaned more into expireds. And I also added absentees to it because I wanted to build that downward pipeline. I didn't just want to burn and turn all the time.
That's right.
So right now, like, here's what I really realized for myself is, for like in the very beginning, I was like, okay, who am I calling now? Okay, FISBOs first, and then, or actually, fresh expires first, then FISBOs, then this and this, and I don't know, it felt like I'm not really getting to a rhythm. And I completely underestimated how important it is when you prospect to have that rhythm. So pretty much for me now, it's like clockwork. I get up super early morning, do my workout and all that stuff to just get the juices flowing, drink a lot of water before I start prospecting. And then at 8 o'clock, boom, it's game time. Hit fresh expires first. Then I call recently expired. So what I do is I collect the ones that I didn't catch on the first phone call, and I try to call them the day after or whatever. So I have my different buckets that I work through. And obviously calling that expires for 2 hours is really draining at some point. So then I want to leave it on a good note because I really enjoy calling absentees. They're just the nicest people in the world.
The best, yeah, yeah. So,
but I finish it up with absentees.
So how much prospecting are you doing in the morning? Like you doing 2-3 hours, something like that?
Yeah, about 3 hours.
3 hours. And so typically how many people will you talk to in that 3 hours?
So on a daily basis, my goal is to have at least 20, 25 new conversations, and then plus my follow-up conversations.
That's great.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and I would imagine if we were to just keep going with your daily schedule, we'll come back to a couple things. So you prospect for 3 hours, you have 25 new conversations, then you do lead follow-up for about a half hour, is that right?
Yeah, about.
Yeah. And so that takes you up to, I don't know, mid-afternoon, noon. Then you take a break, and then, well, what happens in the afternoon typically?
So if I don't go out on showings, or have a listing appointment, then if I have the time, I'll just jump back into prospecting.
Yeah, I mean, that's
the ones that we didn't catch in the morning. I'll just boom, hit the phones right away again.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so most of the agents, Max, that are hearing this would say something like, "All right, I hear you guys. I understand I have to prospect. I understand that it's probably the might not be the most enjoyable, but I know that it works." Listen, I'm picking up the phone. This is what agents would say. I'm making the calls. I just not getting anything out of it. Can you walk the audience through some of the skills, the sales skills that you've learned over the last year of you and I working together that have helped you the most have good conversations over the phone so that you can get leads and generate appointments?
Yeah, I mean, overall, obviously objection handling is one of them, but I use a lot like the question techniques that you teach, right? Whether it's, just using certain trigger words to give them, like, they give me permission to ask questions, and I, just finding ways to extend, that little time that I have on the phone with them without being weird or anything, right? But
Sure.
just to be like from the place of coming from a place of curiosity, asking those questions, and just staying in the pocket, to be able to then disqualify that person. Is this really a lead? Yes or no? And I mean, if it's not, that's cool. And I'll just move on to the next one.
Yeah, it's great. And so, really, what you're talking about is to take approach of permission-based selling versus bulldozing your way into a conversation, and you end up
Yeah.
with a fight, right? And so, it's a lot different when we start to communicate with people where they feel that maybe their autonomy is being respected, where you have given them a perception that they are in control of the conversation, and what happens is magic. You
Yeah.
see, and most people don't understand that are selling over the phone. They think that in order to control the conversation, they have to be the one doing the talking. And so they just come out really aggressive and they just bulldoze their way into a conversation. What you're talking about is actually getting their permission to ask questions, getting their permission to have a conversation. And because of that, people are very much more open to having a conversation. Has that been your experience?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I can't even tell you how many, even with expireds, when I call expireds, I've had it so many times that people say, like the feedback that I'm getting, directly from the person I'm talking to, like, wow, it's so refreshing the way you do it, the way you talk here, and it's just very pleasant, and then they're not intimidated, or like I don't come across as, I'm trying to force my way in and get this listing over the phone, so I just ask questions from a genuine place, and I think they appreciate that.
Yeah, makes sense. Let's shift to setting appointments for a second. So, you're having these conversations. Could you walk us through typically what happens on a phone call where a homeowner and you are having a good conversation and gets to the point where they would invite you over to interview to list their property? I mean, I don't know if you want to role play a little bit, or what is it that you're saying, Max, that people feel comfortable enough saying, yeah, Max, come on over. We'd love to meet with you.
Yeah, I mean, basically what I try to go for is after I've uncovered their motivation and what their timeline is, I'm just trying to figure out, is this somebody that I could actually help? Right.
That's right.
And if I feel like that is the case, then I go, hey, based on, whatever your situation is, so and so, you told me this is your goal. I'm not sure if this is a fit for you, but I think I might be able to help you out. The approach that I have is not a fit for everyone, but if you're open to it or open-minded to at least take a look at it, I'd be happy when I'm, in the neighborhood. I'll swing by for a couple of minutes, won't bother you for long, and I'll just show you what I do. And if it works for you, cool. We can have a conversation on potentially working together. And if it's not the right fit for you, that's completely fine. I'll get out of your hair. And that's been so easy for people and to say, oh yeah, okay, yeah, as long as I'm not signing anything over the phone, or whatever. Like,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
it's great because what's happening is, not to get into a whole sales training, but it's because it's so non-committal that it's easy for people to say, yeah, there's not a lot of threat here. You seem like the type of person that is not going to come to my house and pressure me to death to try and list my house with you. So yes, I feel comfortable meeting with you. And that's the whole goal of a prospecting call, is to make people feel comfortable, A, having the conversation, and B, being open to invite you into their home, right? And so that's where most people get it wrong. They make people feel uncomfortable. So they're dealing with nothing but resistance and pushback and friction, and they got to fight and argue their way into these conversations. All right, let's shift gears into the actual listing appointment. We teach this framework on how to handle this conversation and how to conduct yourself at a listing appointment. Max, when you look back over the last 12 months, you say, okay, I've learned your listing presentation, Brandon. Is there parts of it that you feel are the most impactful when you get in front of somebody?
I mean, if I had to single out one thing, it's the no handcuff agreement works wonders.
Yeah.
Especially with expireds. They had a bad experience before. They don't want to be tied to somebody they don't even know. They just, meet me for the first time, whatever. So that really works wonders. But I think it's the whole makeup of the listing presentation is so powerful in itself, especially with, the way you teach it, or the whole team teaches it, to have these checkpoints in there, and if you follow these checkpoints, methodically, then closing that listing is going to feel super easy. It's going to be seamless, you know?
That's right.
And that was the learning curve for me. Like in the beginning, like if I think back, I was like, you know, oh, wow, those were not even realistic presentations when I did in the beginning. You know, I was just rushing through my thing, and so over time, obviously, you know, getting better at it, knowing when I feel resistance, it's kind of like on a cold call, right? You start trying to stay in the pocket, and in a listing appointment, when you feel a little bit of resistance, or at least you don't feel 100% agreement, you know, leaning in, knowing when to lean in, then, and just trying to extract what is the issue here. I remember to this day that was this was last year in September. It was a townhouse on the beach, a listing where you know, listing appointment that I had, and it went great. You know, I got a really good feeling from them, and at the end of the listing presentation, I was like, you know, basically asking them for their business, and then they said to me, "Well, we kind of want to think about it." And you know, obviously, you know this, but before, you know, I would never would have crossed my mind that they really don't want to think about it, you know, and so knowing then, you know, that I actually like this, like a trigger word, you know, that something is not right. I said, well, you know, walk me through. Is there anything that wasn't clear? Is there anything you're not in agreement with, or, you know, just to understand what the actual objection was? And you know, in the end, we had a conversation about it and figured it out, and I said, okay, we're going to sign on the spot, you know. And so like being able from your training to kind of identify, you know, if something's not right, like from the responses you're getting, just immediately to, you know, shift gear and then and lock it down.
It's great because you are willing to have that open conversation. We call it isolation, right? When you really ask questions to isolate what the real issue is, and you're not afraid to hear no. You're not afraid to have the prospect say, "Listen, you're not the agent for me." That willingness, we call it, you know, to be disarmingly honest. And that's what's so refreshing from prospects. They're like, you're just so, the way, yeah, the feedback that we get all the time is what you just said that you get all the time, which is people just really appreciate this approach. So,
100%.
yeah, let me ask you this. You know, if you look back over the last 15 months of you and I working together, would you say that it was a complete waste of time and the worst thing you've ever done for your business? Be honest.
100%. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Now, to me, this is life changing. So, I mean, I've told all my realtor friends already about you. I think a couple of them have contacted you and your team already. To me, this is hands down the best training that you can get. And I'm not saying this because I'm your, you know, in your training program. I really mean it. You know, everything that was taught, everything that was kind of laid out at the very beginning, you know, it just really works, you know, so there's no BS about it. And that's what I love about it. That's why I don't have an issue of recommending it to anybody, because I know that it works.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the kind words. Last one for me, Max. You know, looking ahead now, knowing having the skills that you have right now, if you look over the next 12 months, what is it that you believe you can accomplish as you look ahead? Like, what are some of the goals you have in your mind that get you excited when you think about the future?
Well, I mean, what I love about it is, and this is like from a mindset point of view, one of the few things that you know, kind of triggered me to go into this business and leaving corporate is I feel like there's just, if you put in the work, there's absolutely no ceiling. Like you
That's
can
right.
take it as far as you want to. You know, if I look at my skills today compared to a year ago, yes, they have improved, but I know overall, you know, I mean, if I compare myself to a couple of heavy hitters, I know I still suck, you know, but that's okay. And I know over time, I'm just going to get better and better and better as long as I put in the hours. And so what I'm really looking forward is to, you know, take this to a level where, you know, I get 20, 30 million in production, something like that as a single agent. That would be pretty dope.
Yeah, that gets you to $800,000, $900,000, $1 million in income in your market. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, I truly appreciate the time. You know, I know that we're all busy and it's hard to carve out time to do a podcast. Yeah. And so everybody who watches YouTube, just like you did, they will appreciate you as well. So I can't thank you enough for taking the time, Max, to pour back into our industry and helping agents that are just getting going. Thank you for that.
Thank you for the opportunity. Really means a lot.
Yeah. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brandon.